Hello and welcome to wenll's guide to doing Extreme Hunter soloing in MOP. I'm going to cover the changes of things that have happened since MOP occurred, and yeah. So basically, brief. If you've been wondering where I've been, um, I was living for about 5 months ago. I was living with my sister and brother-in-law, and in a house where I wouldn't even call it a house, but it was a pretty horrible place. And when I discovered that apparently they had no intention of ever moving, because we were going to kind of like share the bills when we moved, yeah, I kind of was like, yeah, not going to happen. So I made the decision to leave and go to college down south. And I was planning on living with my dad, but after 5 months living with him and trying to get good internet, I mean, he's a nice guy and everything, but he's he picked the worst area to live as far as internet goes. So 5 months of not having any sort of decent internet was too much. So as soon as I was able to, I moved out of there and finally got my own apartment, which I am very pleased and happy with. Yay! So now that I can finally raid, I'm going to be doing a lot more Extreme Hunter soloing, coming out with a lot more of these guides and everything. So sweet. All right, now to the actual guide. Basically, the there's been a lot of changes that have occurred. DPS rotations are pretty similar to how they were, but you'll have like some additional stuff now. Um, in addition to that, there's a lot of new abilities, some other changes, which let's go over them. So the first change is you can now DPS from. There's no more mid range. You'd be like, yeah, die, boss. Um, the next change is you can now DPS casting steady shot and cobra shot on the move. They took out aspect of the fox's last patch, so it wasn't too big a deal for me to begin with having to aspect dance, but it it does make it simpler not having to worry about aspect dancing anymore. So hooray for that. So those are the two main changes, which are amazing and will definitely help for Extreme Hunter soloing. You no longer have to worry about min range, and you can cast steady shot and go. So, woohoo! Um, aim shot can also be cast on the go, but you have to glyph that. It's a major glyph, which isn't too big a deal to do as far as raiding and stuff goes, but kind of sucks for other purposes. Um, the it's as far as the stats go, we now have a new stat, expertise. They lowered the hit percent. You now need 7.5% hit, down from 8%. But you also need 7.5% expertise, which, if you're wondering the number of that, it's 2,550. So you need 2,550 hit, 2,550 expertise. Um, Good luck getting expertise. I'm not gonna lie. I've Most of the gear I've gotten so far, at least in LFR anyways, has not had expertise on it. It's all hit gear, so you gotta do a lot of reforging, gemming, stuff like that to get your expertise up. And ironically, you gotta do a lot of reforging out of hit because you get so much hit. I was like, Jesus, I had like 20% hit almost. I was like, what the hell? Um, so you got that. The stat priority, I believe, is still the same as it was. It's basically crit followed by haste followed by mastery. Um, so that's the stat. So that's all the stats. Um, as far as spells, the changes in spells is, well, for one thing, you learn spells automatically. The only as you level, so you don't have to visit a trainer anymore. The only new spell you actually get, I believe, is Stampede, um, which I'll go over that in a minute. As far as spell changes go, camo you can now learn, or you can now use that in combat. It'll, what was it? You can use it in combat, but it'll only last for like 6 seconds. You can glyph it so that you can actually use it and be in stealth when you use it, instead of just walking around and people being like, "Oh look, I can see you walking." Yay! Not gonna just hit you. So you can actually glyph it now, so you can be in stealth as well. Reduce, was it reduce walking speed, but not too big a deal considering you're fully invisible. Let's see. Explosive shot. If your survival explosive shot no longer clips, so that's good. Arcane, or not arcane, but Shamir shot now does 3% heal instead of 5%. However, you can glyph it, and if for extreme hunter soloing, you will glyph it for that extra 2%. So you can still get the 5%, but you just have to glyph it. Kill shot is now, you no longer have to glyph or spec into that. It's automatic, where it'll automatically refresh every time you hit someone. You hit someone with a kill shot, it'll refresh so you can hit them again. Just make sure that you're aware of your distance, because you might need to weave in a different shot while you're waiting for the your initial kill shot to hit. So until your initial kill shot hits the target, it won't refresh the kill shot, and that occurs once every 10 seconds. Um, the other thing is trap launchers have been changed now, so that now you can either just place traps down, be like, yeah, look, I'm placing traps down, or you can activate trap launcher, and it'll stay active instead of disappearing after a few seconds. So you can actually activate trap launcher, and then you can just press any of your traps over the area. So you might need to modify a few of your macros if you haven't, as far as the trap launcher macros go, because trap launcher is now an activated thing. So yeah. That'll definitely make it easier for trapping people, but you'll have to modify a couple of your macros, so go do that. Stampede, as far as Stampede goes, how that works, it's a new spell, summons all 5 of your pets you currently have, so you'll actually want to have a variety of pets. And how it works is you summon the pets, they'll do 25% of their normal damage, and then if you're like solo or something like that, you'll actually get all of their, as long as you don't have the raid buffs already, you'll actually get all their buffs that they would apply normally, applied. So you'll have all those buffs for like 2 minutes or however long they last, which is a substantial DPS increase, having all those pets for 20 seconds and then having all those buffs for a minute or 2 minutes. So it's a really, really good ability. If you're Beast Mastery, you can actually glyph it regardless, where it'll be the same pet instead of different pets. But honestly, unless you're Beast Mastery, I wouldn't recommend doing that, because you'll be losing out on having all those extra buffs, which will be very useful. So yeah, it's a pretty powerful ability, but it's on a 5-minute cooldown, and it is not affected by readiness. So when you use readiness, which, by the way, you get readiness now in all your specs, yay! Yeah, you can use readiness, but if you're currently, yeah, I think it's the only ability you have that readiness does not affect. So 5-minute cooldown, period. We no longer have any wing clips or raptor strikes, because they changed it now so that every class only has like a main hand, off hand type thing. So you can still equip swords and staffs and all that stuff. You just can't equip them at the same time. So you can have like either your bow equipped or you can go and have a sword, staff equipped or whatever. Obviously, you're going to be doing bow, but if you have cosmetic purposes, running around Stormwind, you can have a sword equipped. Like, I got Thunder Fury, yay! Like this, haha, I got Thunder Fury, yay! Um, so, yeah. Um, so no more wing clip, no more Raptor Strike, no more melee, which we don't even have to worry about that anymore because, hey look, I can DPS in melee range, yay! um, Also, pets. You can now have your pets. Where is it? You can have your pets have their own talent trees. So, depending on the pet you have, you can have it be BM, or not BM, tenacity, ferocity, or cunning. And so you no longer have to worry about, well, this guy applies a really good buff, but he's like a cunning pet or a tenacity pet, so I don't want to bring him to a raid because like he's lower DPS. Nope, no longer have to worry about that. As long as you've got the buff, you can have your pet be whatever spec you want, and it'll do that damage. So, woohoo! um, Obviously, for like tanking pets, if you're doing a tanking role, you're still gonna want to have some sort of a tanking type pet to begin with, like Turtle, because its special ability is a shield. So, you'll want to still have that, but it's very good for DPS and raiding and everything. So, um, glyphs. As far as glyphs go, where's my glyphs? Oh, they're over here. I always get confused. DPS wise, yeah, glyph of aim shot. I don't know. I'm not really gonna go through all of them, but basically for extreme hunter soloing, the glyphs you're going to want is glyph of misdirection, which will allow you to constantly cast misdirection on your pet. Glyph of mending, not to be confused with Glyph of Menpet. Glyph of Menpet will remove curses and stuff. Glyph of Mending actually increases the healing that you can do to your pet. And then Glyph of Chimera Shot. Those are for the extra heal. Those are the three main abilities you want to use. Rating, it's not too big a deal. It depends on your spec. Glyph of Marked for Death, you'll generally want to save yourself a global. Maybe Glyph of Trank. Glyph of Aim Shot if you're obviously marksman, and Glyph of Animal Bond is a pretty decent one as far as rating and stuff goes. Help you out, help your healers out. So, and it'll help you out if you survive. So, you living is a good thing. But yeah. So yeah, you can just kind of look through all the glyphs, be like, hey, look. Most of them aren't really too big a deal. It's just more of a situational type thing. So usually a lot of them are more situational and PvP oriented, so not too big a deal. The minor glyphs are even less of a deal. Glyph of Aspect of the Cheetah is one you might want to get, so that you can sit there and use your aspect. And then if you get days, instead of getting days, it'll automatically just take it off, and you just can't cast it for 4 seconds. Tame Pet might be another nice one if you're trying to tame some hard tame pet. Stampede, unless you're a Beastmaster, I wouldn't recommend you take that one. Yeah, I mean, there's the minor glyphs are really more just for fluff. Glyph of the aspects. Every time you cast an aspect, you get a little aspect follow you around for a couple. Yeah, like, hey, look, it's a little hawk. Yeah, so that's pretty much the glyphs. Talents. It's so annoying. talents, how those work now is you've got a new talent that you can get every 15 levels. There's 3 different trees, so you can sit there and run around in all 3 trees, picking a different tree every 15 levels. Mostly, you're usually gonna, for the most part, you're gonna have the same talents. It might differ based on what you're doing a little bit, but for the most part, it's gonna be the same. So basically, the talent you want in the first tier is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, because you'll be able to have cast deterrence more, and more importantly, you'll have a 60-second reduction on being able to cast deterrence. So, yeah. So you can sit there and have more disengages and more deterrences throughout the course of a fight, which is very good. The other 2 are more situational, PvP oriented. But as far as raiding and extreme hunter soloing, you're going to want Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Silencing Shot, honestly, I wish they would have made that just mandatory, put that in your actual spellbook instead. It's pretty much mandatory. You pretty much have to have a silencing shot regardless of what you're doing. So I feel like they should have taken the intimidation from Beast Mastery that stuns the target with your pet and made that into and replace silencing shot with that, which I'm hoping they'll do it eventually. But yeah, silencing shot is pretty much mandatory. This tier, the 3rd tier, you've got. I like to do Aspect of the Ironhawk for my rating spec, just because 15% reduced damage throughout a fight. It means 15% reduced healing that I have to take, so helps my healers out, helps me survive. Yay! You can also do Spirit Bond, which will help your healers out too, because they'll get healed. But I think healing wise, it's less. I think Aspect of the Iron Hawk is probably, as far as rating goes, is probably the way to go. Because you just won't have the same healing output. Like, you won't be healing for 15% of your health throughout the course with the amount of damage you take during a fight. So I just don't think it can heal that much. But it's definitely mandatory for extreme hunter soloing and maybe PvP. PvP, you'll probably either want Aspects of the Iron Hawk or Spear Bond, one of the 2. Yeah, so Spear Bond's basically 2% every 2 seconds, or easier way to think of it is 1% HP per second. Exhilaration is pretty terrible. It's literally 4 times worse than Spear Bond, and it's 30% every 2 minutes or 15% every minute. So that's freaking terrible. I'm sorry, but that's like you could heal yourself for was it 15% every minute? You could literally heal yourself 4 times that amount with Spirit Bond. So that's just terrible. um, some people might like it. I don't know, but yeah, that's it. What pisses me off is in PTR it was actually they're kind of like messing around with how much it would heal you, but it was basically like about a 15% heal every time you disengaged, and disengaged on like a 15-second cooldown or so. So it basically would have been either 15 seconds you can get a 15% HP back instantly, or over the course of 15 seconds you gain 15% of your HP back. So you can either do it instantly or over the course, depending on Spirit Bond or Disengage. And Swifty, in his amazingness of apparently knowing every class despite never playing them, decided that it was too OP for hunters to be able to have a self-heal, and so he made this known as YouTube channel, at which point every Swifty fanboy was like, oh my god, it's OP! So he got that nerfed, which really is a thorn in my side. I don't like Swifty because of that now. I never really cared about him before, but now I just simply don't like him because he's got my class nerfed over something he understood nothing about. um, and the fact his own class has really good self-healing just makes me even more angry. It's like, ugh. But if you're a Swifty fanboy, I'm sorry, but I just don't like Swifty because of this. He really pissed me off with that. Yeah. So hopefully eventually they'll bring that back, but yeah. So um, as of now, exhilaration completely useless. I hate it, and you might be able to use it in a PvP situation, but probably not very well. So let's see what else. The next tier, well, the next 3 tiers rather, are very. These ones are kind of annoying in the sense that you now have literally 3 new abilities you gotta click through. So how this works is, um, okay, so basically how this works is you got Fervor, instantly restores 50 focus, and then another 50 over 10 seconds, 30-second cooldown. Dire Beast, also 30-second cooldown. Every time it attacks a target, you gain focus back. And then Thrill of the Hunt, which is a proc. I actually used to have Thrill of the Hunt, and it does proc a lot, so it really helps with multi-shots and all that stuff. But that one's good for passive focus, whereas Dire Beast you actually have to manually click. Same with Fervor. Most people, though, they actually go for Dire Beast, and the reason for that is it's a slight DPS increase because it's actually doing damage itself, like this. It summons a random beast, which will do damage. You can see it doing damage right there. It's affected by haste buffs, so if you throw up like heroism and stuff like that while it's active, it'll do more damage and get do more attacks during that time, so you'll actually get even more focus back. That's why most people go for Dire Beast. The next tier of talents is a Murder of Crows. 5.1, it used to be you would use Link's Rush, or before 5.1, but post 5.1, more people are getting away from Link's Rush and going towards a Murder of Crows. It's really situational. A Murder of Crows costs 60 focus, but it does a lot of damage, and it's a dot applied to the target. The problem is when you use Readiness, you can't. It's not a stacking dot. So if you use Readiness, you gotta wait for the Murder of Crows cooldown to finish, or you gotta use it on a different target before you can recast it. So that's the downside, and it costs 60 focus. But it's on a 2-minute cooldown, and I personally prefer it because it means it's an instant thing, does a lot of damage to the boss as a dot, so I don't really have to worry about my pet being disoriented or anything like that, and I personally like it better. Link's Rush is what a lot of other people use, and that one causes your pet to do a bunch of damage, attack a bunch of times. That's what a lot of other people use, and what was the standard before 5.1. Blink Strike, not as many people use it. It's on 20-second cooldown, does instant damage, teleports your pet to the target. However, for BM specs, I imagine for BM spec it'd be really, really good. So if you're BM, definitely take that. Most likely, as the quicker your pet gets behind the target, the quicker you can start doing your beast damage. So, Blink Strike's probably the way to go if you're BM. As far as the final tier talents, you got Barrage, which is what I used to have as well. And that will basically AoE all the targets in front of you that you have selected. So if you got a target selected, it'll just AoE like in this range and do a whole bunch of damage to all of them. So it would just be like pew 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 pew. It's kind of fun. But you guys, the downside is you have to stand there while casting it. So Power Shot, I don't think I've ever actually seen anyone use that ability. I don't know if anyone even has that talent in WoW. I imagine someone somewhere might have it, but it's good because you can it's kind of like a 1-minute interrupt as well. It's also an AoE ability, but it's kind of like a 1-minute interrupt because you can knock your enemy back or enemies. But yeah, Glaive Toss is the one almost everyone uses, and I eventually switched to it because DPS, it's pretty good DPS of the three, and it just kind of goes well with the whole Night Elf theme. Because Night Elves use glaives and stuff, so you're just like, wee. So basically, you got that. What Glaive Toss does is, seem to be having frames a second. Anyways, yeah, what Frame Toss or Glaive Toss does is 15-second cooldown, will strike the target and then strike it on the way back. And while it's doing this, you will so it'll strike the target. Let's see. The primary target will take 4 times as much damage. And then all the targets in between your primary target and yourself will take a bunch of AoE damage. So it's pretty decent. Pretty decent. 15-second cooldown. Now, as far as all these talents go, you're generally going to want. You basically have 3 new abilities from the talents: Dire Beast, A Murder of Crows, and Glaive Toss, or Dire Beast, Link's Rush, and Glaive Toss. So you've got that. What you're going to want to do is take those 3 new abilities and put them into a macro. This way you can maximize your DPS without having to worry about having 3 or 4 new abilities thrown onto your little action bars and stuff. So the best thing to do is you make a macro, show tooltip, Glaive Toss, or whatever you want to do for that. You don't have to if you don't want. But the best thing to do is make the macro, and then how you want to set up the macro is /cast sequence space bracket no mod bracket reset equals 3 space Glaive Tossed, comma Dire Beast, comma A Murder of Crows. And you can actually change it so that instead of having no mod, you can have it be a mod something. But that's just how the macro I have set up, because it's just on my standard action bar. But anyways, what this does is it'll reset the cast sequence after 3 seconds. So you have 3 seconds to cast these abilities, and it resets it so that you have to recast Glaive Toss and then Dire Beast and then A Murder of Crows. But that gives you 3 seconds to cast all 3 abilities, or 2 abilities, or whatever's off cooldown. And you want to have the lowest cooldown one first, and the highest cooldown one last. because it's always going to cast whatever one you have put in there first is what's going to try and cast first. So if you have like the one with the highest cooldown first, you're going to have to wait 2 minutes instead of 15 seconds to recast the abilities. So you put Glaive Toss in there, and then Glaive Toss is 15-second cooldown. Dire Beast is 30-second cooldown. That means every 2 Glaive Tosses you should be able to cast a Dire Beast. Murder of Crows is 2 minutes, so that's every 8 Glaive Toss. Yeah, I think that it's every 8 Glaive Toss you should be able to cast Murder of Crows. Another thing I did was I macroed a Murder of Crows into my glove ability, so whenever, because my glove ability is on a 1 minute cooldown, so every 2 gloves I should be able to cast a Murder of Crows, so that gives me 2 opportunities to cast a Murder of Crows, so I should never have to worry about casting that. Yeah. um, so, but yeah, so I never have to worry about casting a Murder of Crows. And then basically, I'll show you how it works. So I start DPSing the boss. I go la-di-da, and then you can see I've got Power Aura Classic here. It shows whenever my abilities are currently up. The third one is actually the glove ability. I don't have a Murder Crow set up on my Power Aura just because I've got 2 abilities that are using a Murder Crows, so I figure as long as I'm using my glove ability, and I make sure I use my glove when it's off cooldown, between the glove ability and the other macro, I'm guaranteed to be casting a Murder Crow. So I was like, yeah, I'm not even going to bother with that one. But yeah, so basically I just cast that, and then I cast that, and then I cast that. So I cast all 3 abilities, and I can use my glove, which I already cast a Murder of Crows, so I didn't have to worry about the glove using a Murder of Crows. And yeah. So you can see it pops back up. It was actually popped up for a few seconds there, I didn't use it. But yeah, as long as I keep a watch out. I have the abilities here too, so I can track the internal cooldowns. If I glance down, I can track their internal cooldowns. And then it's literally just a matter of waiting to see what pops up. Now, an alternate thing you can do with the macro. Oh, another thing is Stampede. I have it on my action bar, but I don't usually ever press it. I have that macroed into my rapid fire. So whenever my rapid fire is off cooldown, I'll cast rapid fire and it'll cast Stampede first and then rapid fire. So you can see. Woo. You just spam that and you're like, yay! But yeah, the other alternate thing you can do if you don't want to even have these abilities on their own separate action button, and you want to take it one step further and just have it not have to worry about it at all. It's a little bit of a DPS loss because of how the cooldown timing will work, but you can actually macro it into either Kill Command or Chimera Shot based on which spec you are. Now, basically what you do is cast sequence, reset, you to go all the way down to the reset equals 3 space, and then you would put Chimera Shot because it's on, or Kill Command because they are on a shorter cooldown. And basically every single time you use Chimera Shot or Kill Command, you would literally just spam it, and as long as you spam it, it will go through the cast sequence of Chimera Shot, Glaive Toss, Dire Beast, a Murder of Crows. And you just make sure your reset equals 3, 4, something like that. No more than 4 though. Yeah, you really don't want it to be anything more than 4. But as long as you do that, you'll be able to cast all those abilities without having to worry about having a whole new ability on your action bar. Um, so that's something you can also look into doing. The reason I do not do that though is it's a little bit of a DPS loss because the internal cooldown or the cooldown or whatever of Chimera Shot and Kill Command doesn't entirely mesh with the other cooldowns. Um, so it'll kind of throw off the number of glaives and dire beasts and stuff that you'll be able to cast per during the encounter. Um, it shouldn't be that big of an issue, but I mean it's a little bit of an issue. So it's just kind of more of a personal preference. The other main reason I don't have it is my main rating spec is currently survival, and as such, there is no way to actually create this macro and use it with either explosive shot or black arrow, because black arrow 25-second cooldown, it does not jive at all with any of these, so it would be a very large DPS loss, not having black arrow up or having to wait on black arrow or whatever. And explosive shot, I could macro it with explosive shot, but the problem is because you have to have that reset equals 3, or 4 or whatever. Even if you had it reset equals 2 or whatever, you'd still have those explosive shot procs where you'd have to wait 2 seconds before you could cast explosive shot again, and then you'd have to wait another 2 seconds before you could for the reset before you could cast explosive shot again. So just there's no real way to create this macro that I know of anyways for survival. So that's why I have its own separate ability, and because I personally like to keep my talents or my action bars exactly the same. Like there's very few differences. So because of that, um, like if you notice, the only real difference is like I think I got like two things right here in the marksman tree, for when I'm switching weapons during my extreme hunter soloing. But other than that, I mean it's just black arrow is replaced by aim shot, explosion shot replaced by chimera shot. That's it. And then aspect of the Iron Hawk instead of aspect of the Hawk, but that's just an automatic. That's the same thing. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much the only difference. Yeah, you can see. Um, so I like to keep it all the same so that I don't go in between the specs going, oh my god, what do I do? Where's all my abilities at? It just makes it easier switching in between them. Let's see, what else? So that's pretty much it. Ah, that's not good. Reset equals 3. There we go. Let's see. So that's the alternate macro. Power Aura Classic. Basically, how that works is you're able to set up your power auras however you want. Um, I might make a guide later explaining it more in depth, but basically how I have it set up is I have it so it shows misdirect. I have it so it shows men pet. Um, and I've got it so it shows my glove ability and the other two abilities here. So I can track them more closely. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Power Aura Classic. Just men pet, misdirect. Big woo. Um, as far as the add-ons I have, um, I've got Tidy Plates, which allows you to see. I feel it's Tidy Plates is a pretty good add-on as far as like being able to track dots and stuff like that on a target. So you can sit there and like do, oh look, I can see that, and then just throw your trap, and you can just like look and see, oh look, he's gonna be frozen for this long. So I got tidy plates. I've got Omen, which isn't really active unless you're in a raid. That's for threat gen. Definitely want to have that. Recount, good for looking at your damage. Let's see what else. Domino's action bars is pretty good for rearranging all of your action bars to however you want them to look. Whether vertical, horizontal, whatever. Changing the sizes and junk. Grid, I got that. Very good for raid awareness. Recount. Yeah, and then let me kind of go through the list. NPC scan, you don't really need that. Just good for finding rare mobs. Auctionator, don't really need that. Spell frames is good for seeing if you need to dispel anything. Gather, you don't really need that. Grid shows raid awareness. Healers have to die can be good for PvE and PvP. It shows who's healing, so you can put a big red cross on them. Well, puts a big red cross on your screen, so you can sit there and see who's healing, and you can figure out the healers, whether you need to CC, kill them, whatever. Omni CC, that's a really good one. Shows you the internal cooldown of each ability. I'm not sure why it's called CC, because it's good for all of your abilities, but whatever. Pet tracker, don't really need to worry about that. That's for the new pet battle junk. Power Aura Classic, very good. Raid achievements, good for tracking raid achievements when you're raiding. Recount, tidy plates, DBM, and then yeah, DBM is the last one, which you pretty much need for DBM or bigwigs or something for the raiding. And yeah, who's trying to friend me? Let me guess, gold farmer. A loon, huh? That's random. So yeah, you got a loon. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as all the changes. As far as the Extreme Hunter soloing itself goes, you're going to want to be able to control your pets. You want to like keybind the attack, follow, and move. So you can be like, follow me. Or you can say, go to here. And then you can be like, no, come back to me. And then you can be like, no, go attack. You'll want to have those keybound. You'll also want to be able to... A lot of times I like to put my pet on assist, but the problem is, like, if you tell... Say these are ads that spawn, if you tell them to, like, try and misdirect them onto your pet, or whatever, like, and you start attacking them, your pet will go and attack them as well. So... A lot of times at the start of a fight anyways, what you might need to do is you might need to tell your pet, go here, and then tell it attack the target, or the boss, and then from there, misdirect the ads onto your pet. And then once they're all over there, you can be like, misdirect them again. Be like, yay. Yeah, you got Glyph toss to help misdirect it too. Just make sure you got misdirections rolling. See, the other thing, you gotta make sure your marksman for the Chimera shot, spear bond, health regen, definitely a plus. Normally, once I've gotten all my ads and everything onto my dude, I'll put assist back on. Let's see what else. Make sure you're always misdirecting especially whenever you're casting either instant shots or AoE shots. Men pet, try to keep that rolling all the time. Refresh it before it falls off. Men pet does cause threat, so be aware of that. Your pet's AoE threat is pretty terrible, so be aware that men pet will probably end up causing other pets to come off you. So if that happens, just feign death. Normally you should be able to just feign death and that'll be fine. And then just keep men pet and misdirections rolling. And is there anything else? Occasionally you may need a silencing shot. Um, I recommend having a macro where you can actually, that's not it. There's this macro right here where you can actually macro it and cast silencing shot on a mouse over target. So rather than casting it on your current target, you can cast it on, say, this middle dummy. Yeah. So you can see I just cast it on that even though I'm targeting the other guy. Let's see, is there anything else? That's pretty much the basics. I mean, the basics is really just, there's a lot of like practice going into Extreme Hunter soloing, but other than that, you're literally just, it's all about keeping the ads and keeping the boss on your pet and keeping men pet and misdirections rolling. It's a lot easier to do now because we don't have to worry about minimum range. We have an extra heal now, and we can cast on the go. So that makes it a lot easier. Plus, it's easier in that we have a lot more health. So with us having a lot more health and our pet having a lot more health, we're able to tank a lot more stuff easier. Becomes, yeah, definitely easier. Let's see, is there anything else? That's pretty much it. So, I might do a guide later on power auras, but yeah, that's pretty much it. From here, I'll just go into how to DPS as marks and how to DPS as survival. So, hope this guide is helpful, and thank you for watching.